Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, we're joined by Prince Adewale Adebayo. He was the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the last presidential election. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good to see you both.
Yes, good to see you too. Quite a lot going on in the country. And one wonders, I mean, you wanted to at least steer the ship of state at the time. So from your perspective, considering what you're seeing today and how things are going on, what do you think?
Unfortunately, I think they are predictably bad. They are where we said they will be. Luckily, they're not as bad as one had feared, given the policy options that people adopted and the mentality and attitude to governance that was adopted by many of the political parties and the contestants, and one of whom now is our commander-in-chief. So that cavalier attitude, where they will not discuss policies, they will just assert their entitlement to come there because they've been in politics for a long time, and there are friends everywhere who believe that if they come in, they will have access to patronage and power. And the artificial fight over who has the dominance of Nigerian political space. Is it my religion or your religion? Is it my zone or your zone? So those things that don't impact on the lives of the people and don't power the ship of state. Those were the issues that were dominant. And even now, to get policy-rich issues into the mainstream, you get comments by some former Ds, another comment by some, even where they don't have policy disagreements, they will have what Fela Adekunle Kuti used to call yabis. You know, for those who did not used to go to the shrine in those days, they used to have a night called Yabis Night. So what Nigerian political class have turned the entire 4 years to is Yabis years. They just come, you say what you like, whether you disagree or not, whether it's consistent with what you've done all your life, just say whatever comes, whatever cheap shot you can control. And at the end of the day, policy is not being done. Remember, there are 4 pillars of governance that you can use to know. First, you will see that if the military and security agencies are effective and life and property are safe, governance is taking place, even if the president doesn't talk. If the civil services are delivering on services and they are meeting their target and people have better electricity, better healthcare and all of that, you will see. If the rule of law is working through the judiciary, lawyers and the police, and people have a feeling that they can enjoy the rule of law, and if industries work, industry in 2 branches, professionals like lawyers, nurses and all of that, and productive industry, like manufacturing, agriculture, extractive industry. If those ones are working, whether someone likes your face or not, evidence will be clear.
A number of things, you've said that. But, you know, they've also tried to put in place a number of policies. From that perspective, they want things to work. But we've seen some of those economic policies, that's manufacturers, they've consistently kicked against and say, look, this is not working for us. And then you come to the electricity sector. The tariffs there, consumers are really hemorrhaging. They're saying, look, this is tough. Businesses themselves too. And so that's why some people think or say they strongly believe that, look, the policies of this government, even IMF themselves, who people are accusing of imposing their decisions on us, are saying, look, some of these policies are not working. And then you ask yourself, when politicians contest and say they want to run or lead the country, and then they get in there, you wonder, do they really mean this thing? To what extent do they have the interest of the country at heart? Or is it they get there, it's all about politics?
I don't know their hearts. I believe some of them have hearts. But I see what they are doing. Their acts is what I'm looking at. So, for example, the policies that all of them are quarreling over are their own policies. They have the same common policies. And these policies don't work. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is almost like an industrial historic society, like Manufacturer Museum Association of Nigeria, because there are no industries anymore. If you look at the critical sectors of the economy, no industry, and if no manufacturing, and China's TV is a business. You consume energy, you pay wages, you have your own costs. You could see that it's reflecting. And we are spending the same currency. So I don't want us to get issues confused. IMF is not saying what we are saying. And I have seen in the media, it looks like people are a bit confused about what the IMF say. IMF, we are saying that the policies of the government don't fit into our socio-economic situation, and they don't address our needs. That's the complaint from manufacturers, from other people, from labor, from Nigerians. IMF is saying that the government is not punishing you enough, that they haven't been able to get enough consensus for deeper reforms. That's what the IMF is saying. IMF is calling you a resource-intense society, country. That they change their language every time. They hire new consultants who bring new words for them. But what they are saying is that we are oil export dependent. And as a result of that, we are not able to do the kind of reforms they want. They also say that because we fall into the bracket of those who are using about 15 to 20% of their revenue to pay interest on loans. Yeah. So they see that they are stressed. But none of those indices deal with the actual problem we have in the country. So if you want to oppose the government and you don't have your own words, you can borrow words from the IMF. But if you keep amplifying what the IMF is saying and you put pressure on the government to react, to try to meet the IMF standard, things will be worse. Because the errors that they are committing now, they will even commit the errors
so
more.
What would you have done?
What I would have done is basically first form a government, which they haven't done till today.
They haven't formed the government?
No. For example, naming 3 spokespersons to speak for one man shows to you that they're just announcing names. You have to gather all the talents in the country. That's the first duty you have, because we have a problem with our constitution that says that only one man is the government. Because Section 5 of the Constitution says all executive powers are vested in the government. So if you want to talk about the government today, you can only talk about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the only one lawfully in government.
No, what about state governors?
No, state government, I'm talking about the federal level.
Oh, okay.
Because the states don't run macroeconomics. What they do is they run their own state. They are just like collect money and spend. But at the national level, because of the broad issues we are talking about, the president is the only executive. Now, he has to now bring talents from all over the country to form a cabinet. And he hasn't done so. He's named some ministers. Many of them, the only thing they know, and I'm serious about this, is they know the road to their office. Now, okay, my ministry is here, I go there. But to engage issues, to have clear mandates, they don't see themselves often. I'm sure, apart from going to listen to them when they do Federal Executive Council meeting and somebody is asked to address the media, go and track decisions that they make in the Federal Executive Council. There are no policy ones. Most of them are just approval. They are like tenders board now. They've turned themselves to a tenders board where you take a contract to them. If it's above ministerial level, you take it to the council, they approve that. If you look at the budget they are working on now, they've reached 45 trillion, which means that, technically speaking, their year 2 budget is worse than a leaner and worse than their year 1 budget. Because the 45 trillion, if you put it in real terms, in terms of the inflation, in terms of the debasement of the currency, they are not able to. And remember that they have been talking about the fact that they gain more revenue. So these are the problems. The president has to form the government. Secondly, they need to take control of the security of the country. And some of the
in terms of economic policies, yes, you haven't said which one would you have adopted?
No, basically, I have said it over and over again. You form a government, the policies you adopt, one is a policy that has to do with you have to secure the country, because there's a linkage between security and economics. Why? Because you want to deal with inflation. To deal with that, you have to get food for people. To get food for people, you need to do some agriculture, because even if you want to do importation, even if you have the money, there are risks dealing with importation of food for your people. So, you do agriculture. To do that, you need to be in charge of the land. You need to govern the country. Second, you need to start to find a way to employ people. And there are 3 ways you can employ people. One, you have to spend the money you have, which they have some money, on social investment. For example, you just read in your news that they will not even they have not been able to get the states to take 125 billion, which is minuscule amount, UBEC.
Yeah, UBEC fund.
Now, if you have UBEC What does that tell you? It tells you that if you get more children into school, you hire more teachers and social workers. And if you hire those teachers will have to pay for food, accommodation, you grow the economy from there.
That's why the states play a huge role.
Yes, because it is you are in charge of the macroeconomic policy. The government does three things. When you are in charge of the economy, you control government spending at federal level, you control subsidiary spending at state and local government level, you control private sector spending, because people will align their own investment to what the government policies
How
are.
would you get revenue? Because this government says that what they meant was really bad, and that the crude, we already had a lot of crude oil sales that had already been, already been done with ahead of time, and so it was going to be difficult for them to raise additional money other than what they say they're trying to do now, which NNPC announced increase to 1.8 million barrels per day. They're targeting 2 million before December. So the government says, look, that is the one way which we want to raise revenue, because at the end of the day, you need revenue to do some of these things you're talking about.
Revenue is a byproduct of governance. If you govern any space, revenue will come out of that governance. The government is not essentially just in a revenue. Government is not a revenue agency. Government is a service provision agency, a series of agencies, one of which collect taxes. When you have ungoverned spaces, for example, when you have vast roads, if you travel, as I believe you do travel, across the country, we have trailers broken down all over the place. That is an opportunity for you to make money, because if you build roadways and you toll those roadways, money will come. If you see this vast arable land, which you are giving to Lakurawa and all these other new agencies, you are creating the forest by the name of bandits. If you take control of these spaces and you put agricultural concerns there, produce will come and you will generate revenue from that. If you employ people and do social works and all of that, you employ people, then you would end up getting payee taxes from there. If you get industries to work with better interest rates and incentive for industries, the industries will pay VAT, they'll pay workers' salary, workers will pay taxes. There's no magic to governance than that. You cannot be shy to govern and be crying revenue. Revenue is not going to fall from the skies. Already, they are squeezing the most out of the people. Right now, there's poverty tax in every sector. So what they need to do is that the more you expand the scope of government, the more efficient you are in governance, the better use of the government revenue that you have. If there used to be in those days, I was much younger, efficiency index. People in government have what we call core efficiencies they work with. So you will see the allocative efficiency analysis being done by Ministry of Planning. The money we spent in education, what is the outcome? How many students did we produce? The money we put in the hospitals, how many deliveries did we do in maternity hall and all of those places? Then you keep measuring. That's what they are saying. They're not governing. If you look at it, don't go with your camera, just walk into the civil services. The civil servants that have nothing to do. Except if the minister is coming the corridor and they all run and collide with each other and the minister is coming.
You plan to what? Restructure, sack them, or what?
No. You need to use them. They just know I'm a civil servant and I'm deployed to Ministry X, but there are no mandates. Even from commissioner level in some states.
I'm surprised you say this, because I wonder if you say this out of experience or you say this based on assumption.
I interact with government agencies all the time, and if you have family members who are in government, ask them, if you are an assistant director, what project are you supervising? They have nothing. They cannot be in meeting with the ministers.
Some of them?
Most of them. And that's a lot if you say most. Go on. There are people who are still alive who will tell you what the civil services used to be like. You go to them, Philip Asiodu and so many other people that I can mention, go and talk to them, they will tell you. Go and talk to Falai and Co. When they were 27 years or 28 years or assistant director, they had projects they're managing. So you just in the public service, that shows, I'm going to give you indices of where there's no governance. If you see the president and the number of cars following the siren and they are all walking up and down, it gives you an impression that there's governance going on. But who to govern, they need to use public servants to govern. And you will now know how busy those public servants are, will tell you whether government is busy. When you say you are a federal controller of road in Benue, what do you do most of the time? There's no road being built, no road being maintained. If you go to Pharma, Federal Road Maintenance Agency, what are they doing? Go to NISRA, go to DFRI, go to the Directorate of Employment. They are not giving them new mandates. That's why they keep creating ministries here and there that just share money. Recently, they said 25 million Nigerians got some amount of money. You haven't seen any of them. You haven't seen any of them. Neither have I. So, and they can't give you the metrics. So, long and short of it.
Yeah, but we know 25 million is a drop in the ocean compared with 250 million.
If you have 10%, because it's not everybody who needs the money. So, let's say you have a poverty rate of about 70%. So, if you have 25 million, that will come to at least about maybe 15, 20% of them. They should be feasible. You should see them. They should be. If you want to verify the data, you should be able to click a button and verify it. In order for the discussion to be, not to just be criticism, to have kind of proper articulation, what I'm saying is that when you form a government and the government is running well, whether your policy agrees with mine or not, I will see that you are actually on ground doing something I don't agree with, but you are doing something. So the failure of this government now is that not only do I disagree with some of the policies they are mouthing, even those policies, they don't have the executive capacity to run those policies. For example, you may disagree on counterpart funding for primary education. Let's say you disagree. Even those who agree with it are not able to get the program going. That's one of the things you read this morning. There is no ability presently in government to actually let government policies touch the ground, whether you agree with these policies or not, because a time will never come where all presidential candidates, all political parties
Why do you think that's the case?
Because conceptually, they don't know what governance is. They assume that governance is occupying government building. That if we took over government building and we're inside the villa and people come and take pictures with us, we are now in government. That is where the problem lies. Government is done on the street.
You say that they're mouthing policies, but I'm sure that a lot of Nigerians would disagree with you, because the removal of fuel subsidy and also the removal of forex subsidy, everybody is feeling the pinch in their pockets, and I think that's why there's plenty of angst in the land. I want to take you up on this issue of forming government. What precisely do you mean? Because we do know that there is a cabinet.
Yes.
And one would assume that when you have formed a cabinet, you have government, especially when you now have two coordinating ministers, one coordinating for health and social welfare of Nigeria and the other coordinating for the economy. So when you have these two people who are supposed to be overseeing not just their own ministries, but other ministries, what precisely do you mean by forming government?
There are two things. One, taking one action is not the same as implementing a policy. I can say today, if I'm in government, block all the roads. Doesn't mean I'm constructing any road. I'm just taking an action. The fact that you say I remove subsidy doesn't make it a proper policy, because the policy, in policy analysis, the policy has its origin, the objective you want to achieve, the countermeasures, the feedback. So the entire gamut, the throughput of a thoroughly read out policy, they don't have it. So you can, and they don't have the uniformity of interpretation, any of those things. So they don't have policy. And if you go to the central bank, what is the policy? It was, okay, we just float the currency. So what happened? Where are other components of that policy? Where is the policy communication? They don't have a policy. But occasionally they take sporadic actions, which have impact on the life of the people. But it doesn't amount to well thought out policy. Is it
that they don't have a policy, or that we haven't taken the pains to listen to what it is that they're saying?
We are listening to them, and what they are saying is giving a headache, because they don't have consistency in what they are saying. They don't want to be answerable to what they are saying. And who is the economic spokesperson for the government? You are a well-seasoned journalist. Tell me I forgot about the three musketeers they just announced now. Those ones, they are all fighting over territory, so give them about 6 months to become friends. But I'm dealing with who speaks for the government.
Other than the Minister of Finance?
No, because remember that the Vice President is supposed to be the one constitutionally coordinating the economy. Then the Minister of Finance is given the coordinating. I don't know who is coordinating, because in that their theme, he has himself, he has the Minister of Economic Planning. Maybe, I don't know who else he has, maybe nothing. Because you don't see them what they are coordinating. The gentleman, very good, brilliant doctor, who is in the Ministry of Health, who is coordinating social welfare, he cannot even run hospitals. Don't talk of social welfare in terms of, he should have been in charge of things that have to do with the one that they had a scandal.
Why you say he can't run hospitals? So isn't that what? He's not qualified or what?
No, because he's qualified to treat diseases as a doctor. But when you are a Minister of Health, one of the most efficient ministers of health in the history of Nigeria was Malam Aminu Kano. And he's not a doctor. But because he knows what to do with reducing maternal, look at the records under Gawan, look at maternal rate, death, mortality rate and all of that, maternal death rate, infant mortality rate, when Aminu Kano became minister and when Aminu Kano left. What I'm saying is that a brilliant lawyer may not be a good attorney general. A brilliant doctor will not be a good minister of finance, and you can health, and you can say, and so. And a good banker who can help you keep your personal money may not be able to run an economy. It is and I don't blame any of them, because none of them fell into that place from the sky. The president must have looked around the country and said, oh, I shortlist 25 people. The best of them for me is this particular person. So if I see that there are incompetent people, disarticulated people in government, I just go back to the person who appointed them. That what was the conversation that led to you appointing them? What was on your mind when you were appointing them? When you appoint a national culture advisor, out of maybe 100 experts that you know, why are you appointing this particular person? And why are you saying things which, for example, to show inefficiency, I know Lakurawa. I've known about them for the past 5 years.
The group that they say
they said they just discovered Lakurawa. I've known about them for the past 5 years. So if you have been in government in Plateau State, you will have seen the activity that they used to go to the mining site in Plateau State, in Nasarawa State here. They will occupy the place. If you're a miner, I'm a miner. I have mining licenses, so I do mining. When you have problem with your mine, you have two decisions to take. Do you go to the police or you go to vigilante? And Lakurawa, they will come from Mali, Chad, other places. They have difficulty speaking outside of the languages, but they're effective to hold your mind against people coming to steal your mine product. They've been around. So how can they just invent that now? So you are not a good commander-in-chief if you are telling me this kind of life stories.
Are you then suggesting
that is what we are seeing?
So you're suggesting that Obasanjo's comments about Nigeria's situation presently is right?
Obasanjo's comments are right in some parts. Because I personally, with due respect to President Obasanjo, have two problems with President Obasanjo's intervention. Is that, one, anything you have done before, don't criticize somebody over it, because they won't listen to you. They will say, you did the same thing. Secondly, if you change your mind about, because we learn every day, if you change your mind about some things you did in the past, you can tell younger ones, I made a mistake in my time of not reforming INEC. I made a mistake in selling all these state institutions that I sold, NEPA, Nigeria Airways, all those things that you sold away, you should have sold away like that, because without that you can't generate employment, without that you cannot run the economy. I shall reform them. For example, why would you sell Nigeria Airways? Because they don't have aircraft. Is the aircraft the real money? The real money of Nigeria Airways, Whiskey Tango, is the BASA. They have BASA agreements worth billions of dollars. Even if they had no single aircraft, the fact that they had the right to fly to Brazil, fly to America, fly to different parts of the world, that's money on its own. So you would now raise capital.
How do you make, okay.
Yeah, you will now raise, because this is money. If all over the world, airlines are looking for places where you have the right to fly to places. So you just don't sell your airline just like that. But Obasanjo is not in government now. So he can come, keep the hypocrisy aside. A hypocrite can still be right. A person who doesn't take a shower regularly can still say to you, you haven't taken a shower today. He's correct. You cannot say that you have not taken a shower for 10 years. But he's right that you, this morning, haven't taken a shower. And you can take a lesson and go and deal with that.
What part did he say that is correct?
What I'm saying is that the state capture is correct. The fact, he gave a beautiful lecture at Yale University, the Achebe lecture. Perfect lecture. The only difference, you can say, you should have been saying, I, together with them, we did state capture. Maybe different, but the fact is that the state capture was done truly. And if one of the participants is confessing, I don't think we should just interfere. We should just let them do that discussion. But the lesson to learn from it is that if President Obasanjo can be talking like this, it means that he is now looking from outside. That thing I used to do, which I didn't know the effect, these people are now carrying on. And now we must all stop it. And I think if a person used to be a smoker is criticizing you that you are smoking now, you can say, well, but when you were young, you were smoking too. But it doesn't mean that smoking is good. So the bottom line of it is that the direction we have been taking since 1999 is not the right direction. And that's why we are seeing bad results. The difference is that Obasanjo had efficiencies. Obasanjo knows how to govern, even when he has a bad policy. He has the presence of mind to govern. Compared to those who are there and they don't have the presence of mind, Obasanjo has the time to consult. He has the ability to explain. And Obasanjo was not too much afraid of bringing talent into his government. So it doesn't mean that you will agree with him on all the policies. After all, if he was successful, many of the problems the subsequent government met on ground, they would not have made them on ground. But does not disqualify him from pointing out what is wrong. More so, he has been in that office a number of times. So even if you are doing what he has done before, that's not an excuse.
What about the response of this government to him?
No, I don't want to comment on them because first, who are the people responding? People responding are not people who are responsible in government. So you cannot take it too seriously. There is no person who is properly in government who is responding. There are people in the corridor who are just writing whatever they like.
So who is proper?
The president, when Obasanjo speaks on a matter of national importance, the person who should speak is the incumbent president himself, because Obasanjo is not a small fry. And when he's speaking, he's raising issues in the country, the president himself needs to respond to that. And when presidents are responding to each other, the language is better, the clarity is there. Short of that, the vice president, if it impacts the economy, the vice president should speak. And if the two of them are distracted by other things, the Minister of Information for the government should look at what they say. And I don't see anything wrong in taking clarification from Obasanjo and all of that. These things that we are discussing are the normal routines in government, because the opinions must fly. They must disagree or agree. But the bottom line is that while all of this politics is going on, governance must be on the ground. And in every facet, this government is not on ground. And people need to let them know that whatever you are doing in the State House, President goes from the State House straight to the airport and flies out and flies back to the State House. All of this is not governance. And that you need to go. You can see what FCT minister is doing. You can see it. He doesn't need to talk to you. You can see that he's doing something on the street, physical. Though he's doing only in the center of the town, maybe next year or somewhere he will go further into the outskirts. But you can see government in action. You can see the gentleman in charge of interior. You can see that he's responding to policy by himself. He's not sending some spokesperson. And he's taking measures to give the homeland services to the people. You can see that.
What I want to know, I mean, you have raised a very vital issue, which is the fact that President Obasanjo used to also engage the people by himself.
Yes.
I mean, I think he was the one who instituted this periodic media chats, which we used to see, and that tradition was maintained up until President Jonathan. It's since died with President Buhari, and it does appear that this particular administration wants to maintain same. How vital is that in getting the people, to understand what it is? Because some people will say, well, what if the president doesn't know how to speak as such? What if his views are better expressed by others around him?
No, that's wrong. First, you are governing on behalf of the people. You are living in people's house. You are eating people's food. That dress the president is wearing is people's money. Used to buy it, the vehicle, everything. So basic respect and accountability requires that you must report back to your employers. You must report back to your master. The president used to work for Mobil before. And will he say that if the shareholders of Mobil ask him to come and explain something, he will not come? Of course he will come. So he used to work for Deloitte before. If there was a management meeting in Deloitte and they asked him to come and explain the partners, will he not come? So would you have more respect for Mobil than you have for the Nigerian people? So you have that duty. And if you don't have a talent to talk, if you are even autistic, you come and use sign language. Do something to explain to the people that you are serious about explaining to them what the issues are. And you also assure people that we're not on autopilot. You know, when you fly there on a long haul and you see the two captains coming out, walking around, we tend to ask them, is there somebody in the cockpit? They say, yes, somebody's inside there. So because the country is not running on autopilot in turbulence, and you want to be sure that the president is even aware. There are people in government, when you talk to them, they will say, when I was removed from office, I'm not sure the president was aware. There was a young gentleman who was removed, and he was telling people, if I had been to see the president, I would not have been removed. So even inside the government, they have their own problem of ability to know whether the circular I received is from the government or not. You can be made a minister and you don't see the president for a long time, and the people whose lives you are impacting, either by your action or inaction, want to know that what is happening to us, you know about it, that you have some intention about what is in the long run, and that these things that Adebayo of SDP is saying on television, I hope that's not all that there is. That
yeah, but some people, they'll also argue. Yeah. I imagine that they will argue that. But he says that during the, what they call that, these addresses. For instance, the October 1 address was the last one we heard, and the president was very direct. It was the first thing he said, that Nigerians, I know what it is you're going through. Because apparently, you know, the complaints are reaching his ears, and that was what he was saying. So you don't think that statements like that at such periodic instances are helpful?
The president is not a masquerade that should come out during festivals, like October 1, May 29. No, that is a public servant who should give periodic briefing. And when the briefing given by lower level executives don't work or don't answer the issue, also come to back it up. And you know, in those days, it used to be just car side discussion. The president wants to enter the car and the journalist puts a question, the president answers it there. Spend like 5 minutes, that makes news. I spent 20 minutes in your studio, I will not make as much news as if the president speaks to you for 2 minutes. So these things, because you are responsible, you are the one in charge of the government, you are the one who, major changes are made in the government without explanation. You even fire a number of ministers. You will not explain to the people why you did so. You are even bringing some new ones who are all over the place now for the past few weeks, don't know where they are doing, what they are doing. You have to explain. You are hosting a foreign head of state, and you are giving our GCON. We need to know why. So these are all the things you do, which you have to explain. You are going to Brazil for G20. You didn't tell us what you're going to achieve there. When you came back from the previous one, no briefing, detail. When the president was there, he met with this person. You came from Saudi Arabia, and you never briefed us. And the man who is going to talk didn't go with you. And if he went with you, he never went past the corridor. So you need to give this explanation. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs is a foreigner in the government. So those are the things you cannot explain.
Foreigner?
Yes, because if you're a Minister of Foreign Affairs and foreign affairs are foreign to you. So that is wrong. And it's not only for him, for so many others.
It's interesting that when you decide to give examples of those who are actually carrying out some mandates, you give examples from the president's cabinet. You spoke of the minister of the FCT, you spoke of the minister of Interior.
Yes.
These people were appointed by the president.
Yeah, so if you have a student who got 2 out of 57, I've been a teacher before, I would start praying for that kid to say, do what you did to get these 2 right. Go and get it right in the other areas. To let you know that to criticize a government is not an achievement. To get a communication across for the government to change some of the policy they can change, because there are things I don't talk about that are beyond the powers of the government to do or the money to do. But changes that they can make that will show commitment and seriousness. I talk to them. These are changes you can make.
So moving forward, and as you wind down, this government has said, look, give some of these policies time, they will work. Because as things are, I mean, you said that as well, it's challenging for several businesses and people as well. Do you think that these policies need time to work, or they should change a lot of them because they will not work?
Two things. When you talk of time in government, your time is limited. You know, it's only in religion we have eternal life. There's no eternal life in government. So you have 4 years. So when you talk of terms, a medium-term expenditure framework is 2 years. So you can only have 2 MTEFs. So if your first MTEF is a failure, you have only 1 more. So 2 combined, your tenure is gone. Even if you find a way magically to have 4 years, 8 years is a short period. If you look at the scaling of projects, there are some projects that are going to be short-term, medium-term, long-term. Those long-term will transcend administrations. But the short-term ones, you're not getting them right. So there are things that need time in government, but there are things that don't need time that you can do immediately. So if your ministers are not performing, you don't need time to know that they're not performing, because they're not performing right away. If the reason why they're not performing is that you're not leading them well, and they can't talk, that you're not leading them well. So you are announcing policies that they don't know about. You are not interacting enough. If you're in government, to see the president as if you have seen the Lord. So you cannot run a government like that. In Obasanjo's time, despite all the 1 million votes Obasanjo has, anybody could see him. Anybody in government automatically will see him. Anybody in the periphery of government will see him. Anybody in civil society will see him. If you don't come and see him, he will come out and see you. So that everybody may not have other skill, but if one person can't do it, you have 5 core people in government whose job is to see it. And then okay, for example, why would you do you need time to know that it doesn't make any sense to have a Niger Delta ministry that is focused on Niger Delta and has been a colossal failure? You will now expand that ministry to be in charge of 6 zones. What sense does it make? It's not lack of money, it's not lack of time, just pure lack of sense.
How do you mean? How did they expand it?
If you have a ministry of Niger Delta, whose job is to deal with Niger Delta.
Do you mean a minister?
Yes, the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, which his job is to oversee NDDC and see to the affairs of Niger Delta. That ministry has not been able to do well. You now ask that ministry to take care of Southwest. You now expand that ministry, Southwest, Northwest, North Central, Southeast. You can't do it.
But it means they will rejig the ministry.
How can you rejig a person who cannot pass simple arithmetic, to now do algebra, to do sort, to do all of this? It can't work. So if you give someone a small, simple assignment and they are not successful, you cannot expand them and ask them to do even more complex ones. So that's what I'm saying, that it's part of the unforced error. If you play tennis, it's not all the time that the opponent is the reason why you lost. If you do all your serves and they go out of the court, it's not you don't have the ball, you have the ball on the racket. So you have unforced errors. So this government has too many unforced errors. That shows that given the experience that the president has prior to coming to office, I can only attribute to two things. Either contempt for the job, in which case I've got myself the job, I don't have a master, or pure inattention, that you're not paying attention to the job. So the president needs to come and be a commander-in-chief, and you can go and call security experts, they will tell you many of the problems in that sector. Then you talk in terms of being a chief executive, governing the economy, running projects, getting ministries to work, getting services to reach people. Pure problem. Then the head of state function, uniting the country, going around and try to at least be present, so also failure on that.
How is it that in all of what you've spoken about,
yes,
no governor has any responsibility?
No, because to analyze the governors, you need to give me time, because I'll have to give you state by state analysis. And then one or two governors may be getting a few things right, but this class of governors are, I don't know, they have a particular problem. Maybe, number one, I think that many of them are accidental governors. Are governors that the previous people live in. Just look like, who's the weakest link here? Who is not going to be a problem to me? Okay, you just go there. That's what I can see if you analyze them across. They just look for the weakest member of their team and just put the person there. Then the governors now, they are not based in their state. I hope you know that they are from a union called Governors Forum. And you are mostly going to see them in Abuja here discussing like a union. Like they even discuss more than NLC and TUC. So they don't stay in their state to do anything. And thirdly, you will find them in every ceremony, naming ceremony, condolences, they all go. Even these days, do you notice that they wear uniforms? They wear uniforms like school kids and all gather together like alumni of your school. So they don't stay in their state. Like, I'm sure executive in my state, to go out of my state is a major event. I'm not going to go out of my state. Ron, I met with a commissioner. I will save him the horror of being sacked. I met with the commissioner yesterday at the Yaradua Center, and he was telling me, since I was appointed, I have not seen the governor. And I don't know where my office is located. So don't be surprised if I just turn in my letters soon. Okay. So that is what is happening at the local level. Some governors are trying to do a few things right, but not enough.
I guess we'll take that time eventually and analyze those governors and see who is doing what, who should be doing what, who should not even be sitting there, who are the ones that are accidental governors, as you spoke about. I guess we'll find out. But for now, thank you for coming on this morning. Prince Adewale Adebola was the presidential candidate for SDP 2023. We don't know what will happen next time, so we'll leave that to him to decide.
And God bless Nigeria.
Yes, indeed. So for our viewers on DSTV platform, there is a live coverage coming to you now from Adamawa State. It's the second day of the ministerial press briefing of all the ministries in the state. Maybe you might see if Adamawa is doing what you like or not. But for other viewers on other platforms, Business Morning comes up now.